The Washington Accord is a multilateral agreement that allows engineering graduates from one signatory country to be mutually recognized across international borders. For an engineering graduate in India, this transnational mobility serves as verified proof of their degree's value. This mutual global recognition is strictly gated. Under the Accord, only undergraduate engineering programs from Tier 1 institutions qualify for this status. Tier 1 institutions are colleges or universities that have been granted independent academic autonomy. To prove they meet this international standard, institutions must compile the Self-Assessment Report, or SAR. The SAR is a comprehensive, strictly formatted document an institution must submit to the accrediting body to prove compliance with educational standards. Historically, accreditation relied on an input-process-output model, which essentially audited an institution's physical resources and facilities. The National Board of Accreditation, or NBA, has replaced that methodology. The NBA is the independent, autonomous body responsible for evaluating these technical programs in India. Quality is now evaluated through outcome-based education, or OBE. OBE is a teaching model targeted at achieving specific, measurable skills and knowledge at the end of a program, rather than simply tallying the resources available at the start. Successfully completing the SAR requires an institution to synchronize two distinct systems: a qualitative shift in how they view teaching, and an uncompromising mathematical compliance with human resource metrics. Mastering this entire framework requires an institution to mathematically prove both its pedagogical philosophy and its faculty stability. Before mapping out those educational outcomes, the NBA categorizes institutions into two distinct structural topologies, Tier 1 and Tier 2. Tier 1 institutions operate with complete academic autonomy. They have the freedom to design, develop, and continuously update their own curricula. Tier 2 institutions are non-autonomous colleges affiliated with a central university. They depend entirely on that parent university to implement the curriculum and examine the enrolled students for their degrees. Regardless of which structural topology an institution operates under, the NBA mandates that all programs adopt the outcome-based education model. This educational framework operates on a strict hierarchy. This diagram shows the base layer, course outcomes, or COs. COs are narrow statements detailing exactly what a student should know and be able to do by the end of a single specific class. Those individual course outcomes must algorithmically map upward into a broader category called program outcomes, or POs. POs define the collective skills, knowledge, and attitudes a student must acquire by the time they graduate from the entire program. The hierarchy peaks at Program Educational Objectives, or PEOs. PEOs are broad statements describing the career and professional accomplishments the program prepares its graduates to achieve in the years following graduation. Conceptualizing this hierarchy is only the first step. Institutions must deploy transparent, standardized scoring tools to physically quantify and measure these student behaviors. Rubrics serve as these mandatory tools. A rubric is a precise grading guide used to evaluate a student's performance across a specific set of criteria, bridging the gap between abstract educational goals and hard, measurable data. This is a table of the official abbreviations required by the NBA. Keeping track of this taxonomy, like COs, POs, and PEOs, is a foundational requirement for compiling the self-assessment report. The qualitative portion of the SAR exists to prove that an institution knows exactly what competencies its students need and has built the exact mechanisms required to measure them. Those pedagogical structures cannot function without the necessary human capital. Outcome-based education relies on strict quantitative metrics governing the teaching staff. The primary numerical threshold driving these calculations is the student-faculty ratio, or SFR. The SFR is the mathematical division of enrolled students by the number of qualified teaching staff, and it directly dictates the length of accreditation an institution can receive. This gauge shows the baseline requirement. For standard undergraduate and postgraduate engineering and management programs, an institution must maintain a ratio of 25 students to every 1 faculty member to qualify for a 3-year accreditation. Securing a 6-year accreditation requires a tighter ratio. The institution must maintain 20 students for every 1 faculty member. Diploma engineering programs require a 30-to-1 ratio for both accreditation lengths, while pharmacy programs operate on a tighter 20-to-1 ratio for 3 years and 15-to-1 for 6 years. Hitting these ratios requires compliance with strict rules governing exactly who is legally allowed to be counted in that ratio. First, part-time or hourly-based faculty are strictly excluded from all SAR calculations. Contractual faculty can be counted if they clear 2 specific hurdles. They must possess the exact qualifications and experience prescribed by regulatory bodies like the All India Council for Technical Education or the Pharmacy Council of India. Second, those contractual hires must be appointed on a full-time basis and have taught for 2 consecutive semesters during the academic year under consideration. The student-faculty ratio operates as a rigorously filtered metric of dedicated, qualified instructional bandwidth. Beyond the raw ratio, the NBA applies a final mathematical test of institutional stability, the faculty retention ratio. This timeline graph tracks retention across 3 specific longitudinal timeframes: KAY, which stands for current academic year, KAYM1, the previous year, and KAYM2, the baseline year before that. The required number of faculty in KAYM2 dictates the denominator for the entire retention calculation moving forward. Normally, a faculty member must join by August 31st to be counted. The pandemic caused a significant disruption to standard hiring and onboarding timelines. This calendar illustrates the NBA's pandemic exception. For the academic years 2020-21 and 2021-22, the joining deadline was legally extended. If a faculty member joined by December 31st of those pandemic years, they are legally counted toward retention numbers for that cycle. Outside of those specific exceptions, the NBA enforces strict exclusion triggers to prevent an institution from inflating its retention numbers. If a faculty member joins after the December 31st cutoff of the KAYM2 baseline year, they are completely excluded from the calculation. The calculation also applies a relieving trigger that penalizes the institution for faculty departures. If a faculty member leaves before April 30th of the current academic year, they are struck from the calculation entirely. This mathematical formula rewards long-term faculty investment, directly impacting the final SAR score. Once the paperwork is submitted, the NBA evaluation team conducts an on-site visit. The sole purpose is to validate claims made in the SAR. If the evaluation team finds that the outcome-based education mapping lacks properly documented rubrics, the qualitative side of the application fails. If the retention math includes unverified contractual faculty or incorrect joining dates, the compliance audit fails. The quantitative faculty metrics provide the exact structural baseline required to execute the qualitative pedagogy of outcome-based education. NBA accreditation operates as a continuous, mathematically verified feedback loop, proving that an institution consistently engineers highly capable professionals.